On a crisp autumn morning in Orem, Utah, an 18-year-old's bedroom lay untouched, clothes still scattered across the floor, his favorite hat perched on the bedpost, and an eerie silence that would haunt his family for decades to come. What started as a typical Friday night in March 2000 would spiral into one of Utah's most perplexing cold cases. You think you know where this story is going? Trust me, you don't. Hey, true crime enthusiasts. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what's coming next in this chilling tale. The story of Cody James isn't just another missing persons case. It's a web of deception featuring a convicted killer named Gary Harker, a mysterious phone call, and a mother's relentless pursuit of justice that would span over 2 decades. You know what's really unsettling? Cody vanished just hours after telling his mother, "I'll be right back." Those 4 words would become the last she'd ever hear from her son. March 17th, 2000. Remember that date, because everything that happened next would challenge everything investigators thought they knew about disappearances in small town Utah. If you're enjoying this investigation so far, drop a like. It really helps the channel, and believe me, you want to stay tuned for what's coming. Let's rewind to the beginning. Cody James was your typical teenager, a skilled mechanic who loved tinkering with cars, had a tight-knit group of friends, and dreams of opening his own auto shop someday. But there was something else about Cody, something that would ultimately connect him to a man named Gary Harker. And here's where things get really dark, folks, because Gary Harker wasn't just any ordinary citizen. He was a convicted killer with a history that would make your skin crawl. Before we dive deeper into this twisted connection, hit that notification bell. You definitely don't want to miss part 2 of this incredible true crime story. Cody's mother, Jackie James, noticed something odd in the days leading up to his disappearance. Her son had been receiving strange phone calls, often ending them abruptly when she entered the room. He seemed nervous, distracted, but like many parents of teenagers, she chalked it up to typical adolescent behavior. If only she knew what those phone calls really meant. If you're finding this case as fascinating as I do, share it with a fellow true crime enthusiast. They'll thank you later. On that fateful Friday night, Cody received one final call. He grabbed his keys, told his mom he'd be right back, and walked out the door. His 1984 Chevrolet Cavalier roared to life in the driveway, and then silence. A silence that would stretch for days, then weeks, then years. The next time anyone would see Cody's car, it would be abandoned in a remote parking lot near the Provo River, keys still in the ignition, his wallet left behind on the passenger seat. But Cody, he had vanished into thin air. And trust me, folks, what investigators would uncover next will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about this case. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll dive into Gary Harker's dark past and the chilling connection between these two men. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you want to know what happened to Cody James. This is one cold case that will keep you up at night. Before crossing paths with Cody James, Gary Harker had already carved a bloody path through Utah's history. In 1982, he was convicted of manslaughter in the death of James Hicks, a 30-year-old man whose body was found in the Jordan River. But here's the truly disturbing part. Harker only served 7 years for that crime. If you're already feeling unsettled, smash that like button. The support helps us bring more cold cases to light. By the time Harker met Cody, he'd been out of prison for over a decade. But investigators would soon discover something chilling. Harker had been engaging in a pattern of behavior that targeted young men interested in cars and mechanics. It's almost like a spider weaving its web, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The investigation into Cody's disappearance took a dramatic turn when detectives learned about the connection between him and Harker. Multiple witnesses came forward, describing how Harker had approached Cody at local auto parts stores, offering to help the teenager find rare car parts for his beloved Chevrolet. Before we continue, if you're finding this case as fascinating as it is disturbing, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss our upcoming investigations. The police interrogation of Gary Harker revealed a man who seemed to delight in playing mind games. He admitted to knowing Cody, but denied any involvement in his disappearance. However, his story kept changing, first claiming he'd never met Cody, then saying they'd only talked once about cars, and finally admitting to multiple meetings. But here's where things get really interesting. Remember those mysterious phone calls Cody had been receiving? Phone records would later show multiple calls from a payphone near Harker's workplace to the James residence in the weeks leading up to Cody's disappearance. The investigation intensified when cadaver dogs picked up a scent at Harker's property in Pleasant Grove. The dog's behavior suggested human remains had been present at some point, but extensive searches yielded no physical evidence. If you're invested in seeing justice for Cody, make sure to share this video. The more people who know about this case, the better chance we have of uncovering the truth. In a bizarre twist, investigators discovered that Harker had purchased several large containers of acid just days before Cody vanished. When questioned about this purchase, Harker claimed it was for cleaning car parts. But we all know that's not the only thing acid can be used for. The police were building a circumstantial case, but without a body or concrete evidence, they couldn't make an arrest. Meanwhile, Gary Harker seemed to be living his life as if nothing had happened, even while Cody's family was being torn apart by grief and uncertainty. One detective would later say, "In all my years on the force, I've never met anyone quite like Harker. He had this way of looking right through you, like he was enjoying a private joke that only he understood." Stay tuned for the final part of this chilling investigation, where we'll reveal the shocking developments that would come years later and the current status of this haunting cold case. If you've made it this far, you're as invested in finding justice for Cody as we are. Hit that notification bell to make sure you don't miss the conclusion of this disturbing true crime story. Time. It's both a detective's greatest ally and worst enemy. In cold cases like this, every passing day feels like another step away from the truth. But sometimes, time has a way of revealing secrets that killers thought were buried forever. 2005 marked a turning point in the investigation. 5 years after Cody's disappearance, a former cellmate of Gary Harker came forward with information that would send shockwaves through the Utah law enforcement community. If you're invested in this case, hit that like button. It helps more people discover Cody's story. The cellmate, whose identity remains protected, claimed that Harker had spoken about Cody during their time together in prison. And let me tell you, what he revealed would make your blood run cold. According to this witness, Harker had boasted about having the perfect method for making bodies disappear, specifically mentioning the use of chemicals and remote locations in Utah's vast wilderness. Detective Sarah Martinez, who inherited the case in 2006, began piecing together a disturbing pattern. Harker didn't just target Cody, she would later reveal in court documents. We discovered at least 3 other young men who had similar encounters with him in the months leading up to Cody's disappearance. Before we dive deeper into these revelations, if you haven't already subscribed, now's the time. The support from this community helps us continue investigating cold cases like Cody's. The investigation uncovered that Harker had developed a sophisticated method of approaching young car enthusiasts. He would frequent auto parts stores, car shows, and mechanic shops, offering rare parts or mechanical expertise. It was like watching a predator perfect his hunting technique. Let's break down what happened in the years following Cody's disappearance. 2007 brought another significant breakthrough. A construction worker in Pleasant Grove uncovered a cache of suspicious items buried on a property where Harker had once lived. Among the findings were car parts matching the make and model of Cody's Chevrolet Cavalier, and more disturbingly, traces of the same type of acid Harker had purchased. But here's where the case takes an even darker turn. Jackie James, Cody's mother, never stopped searching. She mortgaged her house to hire private investigators, organized searches, and kept Cody's story alive in the media. Her dedication would prove crucial in 2010 when she received an anonymous letter that would reshape the entire investigation. If you're finding this as compelling as it is disturbing, share this video with someone who appreciates true crime investigations. The more eyes on this case, the better chance we have of finally getting justice for Cody. The letter, written in carefully disguised handwriting, contained details about the night Cody disappeared that had never been released to the public. It described a meeting at a remote location near Utah Lake, a confrontation over car parts, and a final resolution that would ensure no one would ever find Cody. Detective Martinez and her team spent months analyzing the letter. Forensic linguistics experts noted similarities between the writing style and letters Harker had written from prison. It seemed the killer couldn't resist playing one more game with investigators. 2012 brought renewed hope when advances in DNA technology allowed investigators to re examine evidence from Cody's abandoned car. They discovered trace evidence that had been overlooked in previous examinations. These microscopic clues would lead them to a startling revelation about the final moments of Cody's life. The evidence suggested that Cody had indeed met someone at that parking lot near the Provo River. Fiber evidence matched materials from a type of work uniform commonly worn at the auto shop where Harker occasionally worked. But still, without a body, prosecutors remained hesitant to move forward with charges. In 2015, Jackie James organized what would become the largest volunteer search effort in the case's history. Over 200 people combed through the rugged terrain around Utah Lake, following leads developed from years of investigation. What they found would haunt them forever. While they didn't locate Cody's remains, searchers discovered several sites where the ground showed signs of chemical contamination. Environmental scientists later confirmed the presence of the same type of acid Harker had purchased all those years ago. The investigation took another turn in 2018 when cold case detectives received an unexpected call from a former associate of Harker's. This witness, speaking from a hospital bed while battling terminal cancer, provided details about conversations he'd had with Harker in the early 2000s. He described Harker's fascination with dissolving materials in acid and his detailed knowledge of remote locations around Utah County. Today, the case remains open. Gary Harker, now in his 70s, continues to maintain his innocence, though he remains a person of interest in Cody's disappearance. He's currently serving time for unrelated charges, giving investigators precious time to build their case. But time isn't on any one side in this story. Jackie James continues her tireless search for answers. Every year on March 17th, she returns to the parking lot where Cody's car was found, leaving a candle burning through the night. I made a promise to my son, she says, that I would never stop looking for him, and I intend to keep that promise. If you followed this entire investigation, you understand why cases like these matter. They remind us that behind every cold case number is a family still waiting for answers, a community forever changed, and a truth that refuses to stay buried. And sometimes that truth is closer to the surface than we think. The investigation into Cody James's disappearance continues. If you have any information about this case, contact the Utah Cold Case Coalition or your local FBI office. Remember, even the smallest detail could be the key to bringing Cody home. Before we end this investigation, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share this video. Your support helps us bring attention to cold cases like Cody's and maybe, just maybe, help bring closure to families still searching for answers. This has been The Last Goodbye, the haunting disappearance of Cody James. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and remember, some mysteries refuse to stay buried forever. And sometimes the truth is listening.